Hey, what's happening, you guys? And welcome to the Proclivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Cochran. I'm here with Emily Rodella. And what we're going to be diving right into, because that's what Emily said we should do, is talk about depression. Whoa, we're going right into it. We're going to be talking about depression. We're going to be talking about seasonal depression. We're going to be opening it up. You guys are going to hear of what's going on in my life. Maybe some with Emily. Maybe Emily will talk a little feelings. Who knows? And we're going to talk about the effects of depression, what it can do to your body, what it can do to your mind, and most importantly, how do we get out of it? It's okay to feel depression, you guys. First and foremost, I want everyone to hear me and hear me clearly. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be in a vulnerable spot. And it's also okay to get out of it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So buckle up, because we're getting emotional here, folks. We're getting emotional. So, Emily, let's dive right into it.
Let's go.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, what is depression, right? Because when I think of depression, it's still hard for me to grasp, because I think, there's times where I've been sad. I've had, I don't even know if this is what they actually are, but mini anxiety attacks, or like the heaviness on the chest, the rapid heart rate, the feeling like I'm stuck, right? But I wouldn't consider that depression. And so for me, it's still like a loose term, but overall we know depression, when we're talking about it, it's some state of being sad where it affects your daily activities, like your typical stuff, right? Eating, your typical routine, work, sleep, those main things. It affects it for a chronic period of time, right? You lose interest in stuff. You don't want to get out of bed, right?
Yeah,
and so usually it's a chronic state of those things that we just listed. That where I get a little uncomfortable in terms of like, well, if the doctor says I have depression, and then that can cause issues too, right? So for me, I think of it as like a state of just sadness. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Maybe it does if you're to a serious level, right? Of perhaps rock bottom, right? And that's obviously something to pay attention to. But I think there's ranges all throughout. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with anxiety or general anxiety for a very long time. 19 years old is when I first remember the heavy pressure upon my chest, right? We talk about words here at Proclivity, and how our words can create a visceral response to your body. I think about something, it makes me anxious. Anxiousness resides in my chest. So I feel the pressure on my chest. And if you guys are listening, you're like, yeah, I got that too. I feel that pressure on my chest. The words can drastically have that effect. Now, repetition is the mother of all skill. And this is why we do what we do. We know and recognize there is a connection to the mind and the body, the mind and the gut. And those two things correlate with one another. And so if I'm repping out the same thoughts over and over and over and over again, it's going to have an effect on my body. And if we rep those negative or constricting words enough, we're going to start losing hope. We're going to start going, what is it? What's the reason? And this is where I feel depression starts coming in. And you guys, we are not clinical psychologists. If you are in a state of deep sadness, please reach out, get help. We're talking general here. We're talking our own personal experiences. We hope that you guys being able to hear our experiences themselves can help you recognize you are not alone, that even coaches who focus on the mental and physical side do struggle with having days where you feel blue and you feel down and you don't know what's going on. It happens. And so there's been multiple times in my life where I have felt sad and blue. And then there's been times, like as of recent, where it's it is affecting my body, where it's hard to get out of bed, where I was just telling you when I was driving here, everything was all good. And then all of a sudden it's like I ran into a mud pit. Everything got slower. Whoa. Could be because we're going to be talking about depression? Maybe. Is it because it was snowy outside? Maybe. Is it because I'm grieving a loss? Maybe. It could be all those things. And again, whatever you guys are going through, it's okay. It's okay to feel that. So it's okay to grieve whatever you're grieving or going through whatever you're going. No need for shame. No need for guilt. Just being able to feel and accept that feeling. And so, what are some of the effects that you have had when it comes to like a constant state of feeling blue? And I know that, you had some postpartum sadness. Would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say it was
Mm-hmm.
postpartum depression?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't call it that. I don't like to classify it as that. But yeah, to me, it was sadness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you feel during those times?
A sense of feeling alone, right? So alone, stuck, feeling like there's no progression, right? There's no joy.
Mm-hmm.
And those were fleeting moments for sure, right? The hormonal
Right.
shift after having a child and through pregnancy definitely warmed me up because there were moments there too. But postpartum, like your world totally changes. And then add on the hormonal shifts and then add on this giant new responsibility, right? And this big worry that you have to keep a human alive. And then being a mother in general, you're literally the one keeping it alive in terms of food. And so it can feel, as we talked about yesterday, pressureful, my new word.
Yes, pressureful.
And so, yeah, I experienced it then. And the biggest thing that comes to mind is loneliness. And then I also had some bouts when I was going through all of my health issues. For those of you who know, right, in late high school, all the way up until mid-20s, had a lot of health issues. And I had some, again, what I call anxiety attacks, right, where I would just get really overwhelmed and frustrated at my situation. And it would be hard to breathe. And I felt like, yeah, again, there's no hope. Like, is there anything I can do? Am I ever going to work out again? Am I ever going to have normal digestion again? Am I going to be able to do things that actually bring me joy? And then loneliness came to that too, right? You feel like, oh, no one's here to help me. There's just doctors here wanting to push a pill on me and that's it. And it's not helping, right? For some people it does, for some people it doesn't. And so, yeah, feeling of loneliness. And for you, I know we've talked about it a lot. Is there any difference for you in terms of feelings, or is it similar to what I mentioned?
One of the things that I've done talk therapy for well over 10 years. And again, guys, if you have yet to get a therapist, if you have yet to get a coach, if you have yet to do any type of therapy, I highly encourage it. I highly, highly, highly encourage it. What stays stuck and festers, and it grows. And this is where guilt and shame start coming and gets their hooks in us, right? You can't say that. Oh, what are they going to think if you are XYZ? If you did whatever. And one of the things that I have gotten from my therapy and from my study of coaching and the psychology is, I want you all to think this. Anxiety lives in the future. This is where Emily is talking about, am I ever going to get better? She's moving into the future, right? Depression lives in the past. Man, yesterday was like this. It's been this way. Is it ever going to change? Mindfulness that lives in the present. Being able to categorize, where am I living? In the future or in the past? Listen, y'all, neither can you change. You cannot change the future. It's not here yet. There's nothing you can do about the past. Maybe you did some things that you're ashamed of. Maybe there's some things that you're like, man, that was really out of character. That's okay. Because I will tell you this. One of the things that connects us all as humans is us being imperfect, is us falling. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, we are all connected in our imperfection. So you are not alone. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling with, you are not alone. And know where those two reside. When you start feeling the tension on the chest, that's most likely coming from future thoughts. When you feel the heaviness of the body or the loneliness, that's most likely coming from the past. Both are stories that we're creating in our mind. And if we leave ourselves to ourselves, then we are going to continue to manifest those stories in the past or in the future. This is where talking it out is so beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, Emily, through the work that we do, getting it out, oh man, do I feel so much better. Do I feel so much better.
Is that one of your first go-tos as a tool for you?
You know, it's been really interesting. Over the last 2022 was the most incredible year that I have felt in terms of the complexity of being human. Because at one point, as you know, and as you guys know, if you listen to the podcast, best day ever. Damn right. You best believe it. Yet there was a time in the beginning of the year, for 6 months of the year, where I was literally living my best life. Nothing better. Couldn't imagine it. And then it started shifting. And the end of the year, I ended up going into it a very strong depression. Depression or sadness, right? It's clinically, right? But really struggling. And having this complexity gave me such good insight to myself of being able to feel the feeling of, oh my gosh, best day ever. This is incredible. And also feeling like, am I going to be able to get out of bed today? Am I going to be able to show up today? And the thing is, you may have heard this. Have you heard the saying, this too shall pass?
That's my favorite go-to.
We usually use it only when it's negative. Something really hard we're going through.
Mm-hmm,
It's a
totally.
struggle, right? And somebody says, this too shall pass. This too shall. Yes, absolutely, it will. Yet, it is important to recognize that the times of joy and jubilee will also pass. So drink it in. It's not to think, oh my gosh, doomsday is coming, but it's to be able to recognize and accept the complexities of life, that things are going to change. And the more that we try to fight the change, this is where anxiety comes in. I can control this. If I do everything this way, then I can create safety within my reality. When really you're creating more anxiety, more tension, because you're fighting the wind instead of flying a kite. And there is a sense of being able to let go of the past. That's where I'm going through right now. Hey, there were some things that I did in a relationship that I wish I could have done better. Dang, Joel. And we can all get real bad with ourselves. And what I mean bad, I mean we can get really judgy, a lot of conflict with ourselves. And that does us absolutely zero good, is getting conflict and creating conflict with self. And what I've realized is that the other night I woke up, I don't know, 4 o'clock. Who knows? I don't look at the clock. But what I said to myself is I said, and I do this quite often, Joel, you're okay. I got you. I love you. And then I said to myself, it's okay to feel what you want to feel right now. And there was this visceral response to my body, this washing over my body that goes, cool, if you want to feel depression or sadness or anxiousness or what, it's okay. You can feel that. I don't have to control it. I don't have to push it away. I don't have to pull it in. I don't have to identify with it. I can just allow myself to feel it. And it gave me this peace over my body that I was able to go back to sleep. And the whole reason that I'm bringing this up, you guys, is that we as humans are innately trying to create safety. We want to feel safe in our relationships. We want to feel safe with ourselves. We want to feel safe in our surroundings, our house, our jobs. Yet safety starts with us and creating safety within us. Because if we're constantly trying to create safety outside of us, meaning how can I make this as safe as possible, my future as safe as possible? How can I heal from everything from the past? How can I forget everything from the past that I did that I didn't like? That's going to create a lot of uncertainty and unsafety because you can't do anything about either. But you can create the appropriate stories for yourself right here, right now, to be able to create safety for yourself. Do you resonate with any of that, Emily?
Yeah, 100%. I tend to, when I do have the heaviness, I tend to live in the future of like, yeah, what's going to happen? Is everything going to be okay, etc. And yeah, I'll find myself in little tendencies to find control in other places, right? And to make sure things don't go poorly. And we see it actually in a lot of our clients in little things such as, oh, I need to track my macros. I need to track my calories. I need to eat a certain amount of this, that, the other, or I need to have the perfect workout or the perfect house or the perfect clothes, right? That's where we can create that sense of I'm in control. This is going well, right? In those other areas. Yet, as you just mentioned, that's external, right?
Yeah.
So for me, over the years, I've really focused on what are the words I'm saying to myself? How can I let go and recognize that, like you said, no one's perfect. And for me, one of the most helpful things to get out of those states is I'm not alone. There's so many other people who deal with the similar things. And that thought alone brings me a lot of comfort, especially postpartum, and thinking like, hey, there's a lot of other moms out there who are going through the same thing, same struggles, similar feelings. And that's normal in a sense. And again, that brings me comfort to know, hey, this is just a phase and a process and other people are going through it, and being able to connect with those people when possible has been able to bring me out of those little funks, as I call them, right? When I talk about it with our clients, I'm like, hey, if you're in a funk, that's how I feel. I have my little go-tos, and it's like, hey, can I talk to my sister or my friends who are mothers, if it's about motherhood, right?
Yeah.
Or can I get outside, right? When I'm going into all the things that I like to go to help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really recognizing, hey, what's going on in the internal dialogue? How can I shift those things around there first?
Yeah.
But it's taken me a while to get there, for sure.
Yeah. Is it hard for you to ask for help?
It is, yeah, because growing up, as you know, I've talked about a lot. I used to be, and I'm working on this, a people pleaser. And to me,
Mm,
in order to do that, I want people to be comfortable. And so I will do the work instead. I've shifted a lot from that, though, knowing the effects it has on me, right? All of my health issues
mm,
came from that stressing too much, doing too much, high stress without realizing it. I'd suppress it. And still, this is something I'm still recognizing within myself is, oh no, I'm fine. I handle stress. I'm not too stressed. And then I see it in physical symptoms come out. I'm like, oh, well, even though I don't technically feel it because I've felt it for a very long time, it's become my new normal, right? So for me, I need to recognize, oh,
mhm,
this is actual stress and not just
mhm,
internalizing it and pushing it down, right? And that is hard for me because I find joy in doing things and getting stuff
mhm,
done and helping people. And so, yeah, 100% resonate with that. And that's something that, again, I have improved on, right? Even in our work relationship with you, like
yeah,
I've allowed you to, I've given up guilt on, say, Joel doing more work, right? Or working longer hours, right? As a mom, I'm unable to a lot of the time work a certain amount of hours or do certain things if my kid's sick, right? Little stuff. In the past, me would be really like, oh, like I would really put a lot of pressure on myself and feel guilt for that. And it's not to say it's not there at all, but the level is
mhm.
much lower, right? And I've been able to let go of some things.
Would you say that you're good with your emotions in terms of being able to recognize your emotions?
Part of me wants to say yes, and the other part of me says no. Because the yes side, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, again, it goes back to like, no, I'm not stressed. I'm fine. I can move along throughout my day and I can
Mhm,
take on like hardships and just keep going and be fine. But the other part of me is like, well, am I sure about that? Because
mhm,
I have this XYZ symptom showing up and I thought I was fine, but am I really?
mhm,
And so
mhm,
that's the part of me where I'm like, I lose a little confidence in terms of, hey, am I able to detect certain emotions in myself
mhm.
because of those years of suppressing?
Do you think that our society looks at emotions as weakness?
Yeah, depending on who you're talking to, but I would say in general, um, a lot of people do, right?
Mhm,
Because you could be looked at as weak or soft or woe is me, right?
mhm.
And I understand that, right? But there's a way to go about it, right? And that's why I love looking internally because I think we see a lot of it through the victim mentality and people projecting on others.
Sure.
And for me, again, it comes internal and speaking in an internal way, even if you're sharing it with others, right?
Mhm,
Rather than like, oh, X, Y, so and so, it's their fault. It's because of this. It's like, no, we can still talk about
mhm.
our emotions without playing the victim.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a matter of how you talk about it. But yes, I would say in our culture, typically, because a lot of us are in that victim mentality, and a lot of us are, viewing it as weak.
What I find it to be very interesting, and you're going to resonate. I'm projecting this, but I feel you will resonate with this. Is that if Dansby starts crying because he's emotional and he's
Hmm.
showing emotions,
Right.
what do you do?
Uh, Now I try and take a deep breath so I can be there for him in a regulated state,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully he matches that. I come to his attention. Right. I try and be there for him, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
talking to him. So if I'm in the car, that's a hard place for me. In the car with him if he's sad
Mm-hmm.
because I can't physically be there for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I can, it's, yeah, can I hold him? Can I be there for him? Which
Mm-hmm.
that's even a struggle in my head. I'm like, do I hold him all the time? Right. Because I have other people telling me,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you don't want to coddle him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a struggle. It's hard to know. And a lot of it comes back to our culture and what people tell
Mm-hmm.
us or say is right or wrong. Yet
Right.
I've grown to realize if he's crying in public, I'm like, he just needs to go through this. Like he's learning. And so I try and
Mm-hmm.
tune everyone out. But definitely easier said than done.
And so you'll come to the attention of Dansby. Yet if somebody else is emotional, do we have the same response? An adult, do we have the same response of being like, hey, let me co-regulate with you. Let me breathe, right? Hey, follow my breath. Hey, come here. Let's get heart to heart.
Yeah,
Let
that's more
it's
challenging.
how come, right? And this is my point, is that we become adults and all of a sudden we don't play anymore. You don't
Right.
play. You do hobbies. Why? We should play. Put your shoes on. Make sure you're in your business shoes or, sports shoes. No, get your feet out. Get your kids love having their shirts off. Kids love being naked. Nope, 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 nope. We're adults. Make sure keep your shirt on. And the same thing with our emotions. Yet then we stand there. We are human. We are no different than Dansby. That we want to feel safe in our emotions. That I feel scared, and my fear or scare is coming out, such as, Emily, I can't believe you didn't do the dishes. You're always leaving the dishes for me. When really it's just a fear that I might be losing you, right? That I'm afraid that I'm losing a connection with someone. And that's all a child's doing, right? Where's mom? I want my connection. And so I find it so interesting that we become adults and we wonder why we have physical manifestations of high blood pressure, of type 2 diabetes, of cancer, of skin disease. Because we're holding in all these things and all we want to do is feel safe. And maybe we didn't have that safety as a child. And this is rearing its ugly head in our relationships and our work or so on and so forth. But you guys, listen to us. You have the right to explain your emotions. Sad, mad, anxious, afraid, vulnerable, scared, happy, joyful. Yet, how often, Emily, we're in a session together, right, coaching, and I ask somebody, tell me the emotion you're feeling. And they explain it in logic.
Oh, yeah, half the time.
Half the time. Well, in this situation, it really is because, this and that, and I'm really recognizing that I need to change that pattern. And I'll say, what will I say, Emily?
What emotion are you feeling in one word?
I come right back to it. Tell me the emotion you are feeling in one word. And if you guys who are listening right now struggle with that, it's time to print out the emotions. Okay? Just like you did as a kid. If you have kids, you're like, tell me your emotion, right? When they're getting old enough that you can talk emotions. That's the one thing as humans we can connect as with kids. Because the same way they feel sad, we feel sad. The same way they feel fear, we feel fear. Maybe in different scenarios. The fear is it's too dark in my bedroom. But for us, it's too dark in my relationship. I feel disconnected from my husband or wife. It feels too dark in my meaning of life, in my work. Yet you're not willing to say, I'm scared. I'm really, really scared. Ooh, that takes a lot of vulnerability. Yet, Emily, how often have we seen when people start connecting to their emotions that we watch a release?
A lot. And because when you first said that, my immediate go-to is like, well, if you say that, then you're making it concrete, right? And that's the scaredness that comes with it. Like, that's why we don't want to do it. Yet, if you do recognize it and name it, then you can make that shift, right? Is
Right.
that what you would say?
Yeah.
Or that release? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to, again, this coming back to, do I accept this emotion? Is it okay for me to feel it? No guilt, no shame. I received this emotion. And it's a tough go. And you guys, if any of this is resonating with you, you're not alone. If you're listening to this right now and it's January, I'm going through it too. I'm going through the thick of it. Emily might feel anxious tomorrow and be wondering what's going on. We're with you. You're not alone.
Shall we get into our go-tos and our recommendations of how to get out of that? Move forward.
100%. 100%. So at this point, guys, we've really talked about the emotions of depression or anxiety, right? This can be seasonal at times. Tends for me. I've had some hard emotional times in November for the past 3 years. Getting really tired of it, Emily. I'm getting really tired of it. Yeah. And I've learned a lot of different techniques to be able to get out of this depression. And we're going to share that with you guys. Again, we are not clinical psychologists or therapists. We are humans. We are coaches who have been coached, who have done therapy. And we can give you the pieces that we've done ourselves that have worked really well. Mm-hmm. So, Emily, I'll let you go first. What are the techniques that you have used in the past to be able to get you out of a funk?
Yeah, the immediate go-tos are a couple of, whether it be affirmations or statements like "this too shall pass." This is just a moment in time. I tell myself, like, yes, this is hard feeling, uncomfortable, icky. No, but I remind myself every time that happens, hey, I'm going to get out of this for sure. For me, my next go-tos are breath. Right? Can I take some deep breaths? That's the immediate. Deep breaths. Longer exhale, right? To slow ourselves down. That can slow our brain down from thinking those crazy thoughts and spiraling.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say crazy, right? But spiraling, I should say. And so those are my immediate go-tos. And then after that, there's so many things to think about in terms of what are you doing in your daily routine. But for me, getting outside, getting out of whatever routine I am in, right? When I was postpartum, I was just in my house a lot. It was smoky out when I had my son. We couldn't get outside very much. I didn't get any movement in other than a little bit of walking, right? Because I had physical things where I couldn't exercise, of course.
Right.
And so for me, my go-to is some form of exercise or sweating or getting outside. Right? There's lots of benefits to that. Getting your heart rate up or getting your blood circulating, some oxygen in there. But then also when you get outside, it's the fresh air, new perspective. The sun in your eyes. The sun's a huge one, right? So when I look at on the nutrition side of things, I look at, are your vitamin D's up? Your D levels, I should say. So if you're not supplementing and you're feeling any of these emotions, highly recommend it because you're likely deficient. But we do recommend you go get tested, right? If you're below 40 on the scale for vitamin D, I recommend you supplement. Right. Doctors will say I think you're at 30, 35, that you're within range. That's on the lower end of optimal. I wouldn't even say that's optimal. Definitely bump that up a little higher. 50s, 60s and beyond is fine. So can you get your skin out in the sun and or supplement with vitamin D? That affects our mood a lot. I also look specifically to gut health. Right. That's one of my favorite things because I know when my gut was suffering, my mental state was suffering. It's that gut brain connection.
Right.
In a couple ways you can do that. The first thing that I go to is, hey, can I remove refined foods and sugar for a period of time? Right. So keto, there's actually research showing that keto or really low carb can help with depression. And the way I see it is it's likely because you're not getting as high blood sugar shifts, right? Because we know when we get high blood sugar, then it goes low and that causes energy dips and pressure on the chest. Our heart rate increases, our cortisol increases, inflammation in our body, right? So that can only add on to the issues with feeling sad or depressed or anxious. Sure. And so eating low carb or fasting for just a couple hours in the morning, something to try out. But yeah, exercise, sunlight, so light exposure in general. Can we get our eyes into the sun first thing in the morning? At least 5 minutes, the longer the better. And then in the evenings, can we take away the bright artificial lights that are in our house, on our phone, TV, computer? all that kind of stuff, because that's what's going to help set our circadian rhythm up, which helps our body regulate better and have more balanced hormones. So those are my top. There's lots more. What are your favorites?
All I can tell you what I've been going through right now. Again, this is the worst I have felt in my life. And if you all heard me say it before, best day ever. Best day ever, because I get the opportunity to be able to feel and go through these things. And I have found a multitude of different techniques that I've used in the past and some new ones. And one of the biggest ones that is newest to me is actually being more vulnerable. I had taught myself to allow myself to get to a certain point of vulnerability, and then I'd stop. So most people that would know me like, oh, Joel's really in tune with his emotions and he's super stable and so on and so forth. Well, yeah, because that's what I wanted to show you guys. And getting to the point of being vulnerable, and I'll tell you this, you guys, you want to talk about vulnerability. Being vulnerable with my mom and dad. And that wasn't always, when we're not a huge emotional family. We're not the ones that like talk about our emotions. So I was the first one to come to the table and go, I'm really sad. To cry in front of my mom and dad. To cry in front of my nieces and nephews. And be okay with it. Not come to judgment like, oh my gosh, I cried. No, I showed my nieces and nephews my emotions. And that's okay. And I talked to them about it after. Hey, you know why I was crying? Yeah, it's because I lost somebody that I really cared about. I'm grieving, and heartbreak hurts. But your uncle's going to be okay. This too shall pass. And so the biggest thing for me, and as I continue to dive into it with breath work and with my therapist and self, is being able to go, Joel, you can love every part of you. The vulnerable part, the strong part, the coaching part, the insecure part. You can own all of that. It's okay. You can love every part of that. Woo, Emily, that's a tough one. Being the guy who runs the businesses and, is telling people best day ever. And people are like, what? How can you have the best day ever and be depressed and be crying? That's the whole point of the language, you guys. That's how you break yourself out of it. That's how you keep yourself going in the future, is be able to say, man, if this is the last day and I cried in front of my mom and I felt heavy and depressed, I'm sure happy that I got that opportunity to do it. Move forward.
Yeah.
So that has been huge for me.
Do you think part of that is sharing that and finding comfort in people in general? Because that's something I didn't mention just now, but having a sense of community or relationships, people to connect with. I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And not everybody's going to feel that way, right? It's not like, being that vulnerable is really creating safety within myself. Am I willing to be vulnerable and still accept myself? Because what if my mom didn't accept it? If my dad didn't accept it?
Right.
What if my nieces or nephews didn't accept it? Would I be okay? I mean, there's been plenty of times, just you and I mean, we've talked about all kinds. And yes, there is, and I want this to be very clear, when you are going to be vulnerable, it is important to know that the person you're being vulnerable with, there is a good chance that they will create that safety, that they are safe. Being super vulnerable with somebody who has shown that they don't have your best interests or safety in mind, that can be dangerous. Maybe you can break them and they go, whoa, you're being really vulnerable, and I see that. And that actually opens me up to be vulnerable, right? It happens in relationships, marriages quite often, right? A husband and a wife who neither are being vulnerable, really saying how they feel, the emotion, hey, I feel scared that I'm going to lose you. Instead, we're just getting into fights about whatever's boiling at the top. And so for me, Yes, to be able to hear other people's stories, their words, it's definitely helpful. Yet being able to be open and just put it out on the table,
Yeah.
that has been huge.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one. If you can be vulnerable with a coach or a therapist or a family member, do it. Another thing, keep your routine. As soon as we fall off our routine, that is the one thing that has kept me going, right? Okay, get up, make the bed. Well, since I've made the bed, I might as well, right, go through my morning routine. Well, now that I've gone through my morning routine, I might as well work out. My routine kept me moving forward and it's continuing to keep me moving forward, right? So that's super essential. Exercise, as you said, has been super essential, working out every day. Also, we can just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. When you're sad or depressed, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. There is times to stop, you guys. And again, feel those emotions, back off, and allow your central nervous system to calm down. Because if you're constantly moving or constantly working out, you are literally burying those emotions, particularly if you're not being vulnerable and being open about it, you're not in talk therapy. You are burying and solidifying that in your central nervous system, and you will find yourself on edge all the time. Right? This is where we find a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people who are just like, you know me, I'm just bouncing around. I gotta always be busy and so on and so forth. And I go, cool, what happened when you were a kid that you now buried and have been running from for the last 20 years? So all you know is keep putting things on my plate so I don't have to face that shadow. So I don't have to go back to it. I'll just keep myself busy. Well, that's frying your central nervous system. Being able to take a moment, do some breath work, do some cold therapy, relax, and be okay with it and be safe with your emotions. That's super, super huge. And then a couple tactful things. Opposite action. Learned this from Brooke Whitley, which we've had her on our podcast before. Opposite action is, hey, if you feel like not exercising, go exercise. If you don't feel like dancing, go dance. Right? It's like, oh, like tonight, I'm going swing dancing. And I don't necessarily at this moment want to. And swing dance is one of my favorite things to do. Yet I know, cool, opposite action. Go do it. Go do it. Because then when I get there, when I start going, when I start swinging and dipping and diving, twisting and twirling, I'm like, yes, this is great. Yes. But opposite action.
And for a lot of people, including myself, that opposite action is the relaxation or not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Great example. And then the last part is the stories. Write what you're feeling down. Read it back out. If you need a coach to be able to walk you through it, we can help. I have my own story work coach who helps me work through my language, because your story repeated over time is what starts creating your reality. And if we can change your cognitive thought process of what happened in the past or what can happen in the future, the story dissipates and you find safety. So a simple exercise for you guys to do is what if. We tend to what if the bad things. What if I never get past this? What if it's always going to be this way? What if I'm always going to be sad? Switch it to positive. What if this ends tomorrow? What if I'm so joyful? What if this grows me so much that the joy I felt earlier this year will be tenfold? What if I become even stronger for my future wife? What if? Work towards the positive, and all you gotta do is just write them down. What if, all the greatest possible things. See how that works. I dare you. And then rep them out daily and see what happens. So those are some of mine.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, some of the tactful things as a reminder: exercise, daily movement, keep to your routine, whole foods, right? If you can, lower carb for a period of time to give your blood sugar a break. That can help your central nervous system too. Some breath work, whether it be guided or simple 2-minute box breathing, right? Anything can help when it comes to breath work like that, keeping it low and slow. Cold therapy, right? 30 seconds at the end of your shower or a dip in the river. And then the opposite action, I like that one. I often do that. That's a good challenge for your brain to do the opposite of what your tendencies are. And you'll likely get a dopamine hit from that. So
100%. 100%.
all good
Well,
stuff.
there it is, you guys. Again, if you're going through anything that's really difficult, please, the most courageous word that you can ever say is help. Remember that. The most courageous word you can ever say is help. And we tend to not do it. When we become adults, we isolate. We do it by ourselves. You're not alone. If you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to be able to support in any which way we can. And it's the best day ever. Anything else, Emily?
No, if you guys have any other questions, let us know. You can always book a clarity call just simply to talk to us.
For real.
That's on our page. You can find it on our website or send us a message.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You ready to go for a run?
Yeah, in the snow, in the slush.
Yeah, it's still snowing, slushy. Our feet are about to get real wet.
It'll be good. Some good cold exposure.
We're about to do cold exposure. You guys, thank you so much for listening to the Proclivity Podcast. If you enjoyed what you have listened to, please like, subscribe, review, share. This is how we grow as a small business. And also, if there's anything you want us to cover, please let us know. You can reach us at proclivity.co on Instagram, or you can email us at joel@proclivity.co. That's C-O, not C-O-M. Or at emily@proclivity.co. We would love to be able to hear from you guys. This has been an amazing experience to be able to share our personal feelings and emotions with you today. And until we see you next time,
best day ever.
Best day ever, guys.